On your Wednesday episode of Locked On Raptors, it's important to cherish the nights like last night, where we get to see the greatest shooter in the history of basketball do his thing. And also, Steph Curry was there.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network in the land. I'm your host, Sean Woodley. It is, what the hell day is it? January the 21st, and I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join as always, and great to come hang out during late night basketball on the West Coast. Discord after dark, they're calling it. Just a true bunch of sickos in there talking about the games going on well past midnight. Come hang out. There's another one of those tonight if you want to jump on in. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're off and running here on your Wednesday edition of the show, talking about a Toronto Raptors 145-127 win over the Golden State Warriors, the first half of a California back-to-back. And obviously, the big thing we're going to dive into off the top, 40 burger for Immanuel Quickley, the IQ breakout game we've all been waiting for a very, very long time. We'll get into that. We'll talk about Brandon Ingram, who I thought had maybe his cleanest, most idealized game perhaps of the season. We'll get into why that was and how IQ kind of helped that happen. And we'll get to the good, the bad, and including some good news on RJ Barrett. But Quickley, my God, packing like a month's worth of positive regression to the mean into 34 minutes of action last night. 40 points, 10 assists. He goes 11 of 13 from the field, 7 of 8 from deep, 11 of 11 from the line for a 112.1 true shooting percentage, which per our pal Keeks over on Blue Sky, the Raptors stats queen, is the single most efficient 40-point game in the history of the NBA. All right, go off, King. Incredible stuff for Immanuel Quickley in this game. Just could not miss, was in the flow early. You could kind of tell there was a rhythm early in this game. You know, transition threes in particular have been kind of a backbreaker for Quickley this season. Just hasn't been able to be that effective sort of wing outlet, trailer outlet. And in this game, I think his first 3 or 4 threes were all in transition. And, kind of as a result of Scottie Barnes or Brandon Ingram sucking in the defense as they drove. Really great stuff to see. And then throughout the game, I just thought this was one of the most dynamic games Quickley's played on the ball all season long. Yeah, most of his threes were catch and shoots. He had the one pull up late when the Warriors were threatening to come back as Buddy Hield was just having an out of body experience. Quickley hits the pull up 3 around a screen from Scottie Barnes and kind of puts the game away with that. In addition to the catch and shoot threes, I thought the way he commanded the offense, the way he worked the 2-man game with Scottie Barnes, the way he carved into the teeth of the defense, the way he kind of grifted for fouls as any guard worth his salt can do from time to time. I thought this was just like a really overall effective, dynamic game from Quickley that frankly showed off why he's valuable to this team. Now, I don't think he's going to go do this every night. I don't think he's shocker. I don't think Immanuel Quickley is going to have the single most efficient scoring 40-point game in the history of basketball every single night. But I do think this game very much illuminated all the reasons why I'm not in any rush to just dump Immanuel Quickley because his contract is not perceived as good around the league. I'm not interested in attaching assets to get off of his deal just to get off of his deal for the sake of cleaning the books or for the sake of buying low on a Ja Morant who does very few things that this team desperately needs and also doesn't play basketball games. Like, again, you can have your misgivings about Immanuel Quickley. I certainly do. He's not been the player that I thought he would be when the Raptors traded for him and then gave him the contract, sort of assuming he would grow into it. But a game like last night, I think, really shows off this dude still has a ton of value to this team, and he helps them optimize and become the best version of themselves. And again, I think going back to the way he played the 2-man game with Scottie Barnes in particular, I thought, this was the impetus for getting Immanuel Quickley in the first place, right? This guy who doesn't need to be on the ball all the time. You kind of want with your wing created system you've got with Barnes and Ingram, you want to have a guard who's comfortable playing away from the ball, but who can also do a little with the ball in his hands. Certainly he hasn't done enough with the ball in his hands over the course of his time with the team to warrant what he's making at the moment. But I think last night, working pick and roll, which is always where Immanuel Quickley is at his best. He's not someone who's going to turn on the jets and just dive in and pierce a defense on his own, turning the corner on a guy in individual play. He needs a screen. He needs pick and roll. He needs defenders making decisions and, the sort of beats and rhythms of when to snake, when he can kind of get into the teeth of the defense. Like, he needs that sort of entryway via pick and roll. But when he does it, he's very good. And him and Scottie Barnes last night, I thought, had really beautiful pick and roll chemistry. And it was kind of varied, right? Early on in the game, you had the sort of quick slip from Scottie Barnes and quickly hits him over the top for a finish at the rim. You had just like your standard, drive around the pick and roll, hit the pocket pass, score at the rim type of stuff. You also had late in this game, Scottie being an outlet as a sort of 18-foot, I think of like the Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka pick and roll from back in the day is kind of what it reminded me of, where you have that 18-foot outlet where, maybe the drive gets walled off and you just have a dude you can dish it off to in those situations. And because you've drawn some attention with your drive, that's just like an easy all-day butter mid-ranger for a guy in Scottie Barnes who's just hitting mid-rangers like it's nothing these days. Just a really good connective game between those two that just kind of was the basis of everything they did in a game where they scored like gangbusters. The transition stuff in this game I mentioned was really great, but overall, the Raptors put up a 140.8 offensive rating in this game. Unbelievable stuff. And I think just the overall, I think forcefulness with which IQ played, getting into the teeth of the defense, and the sort of intentionality with which he moved away from the ball. He's such a great jitterbug when he's kind of at his peak, right? Pass it, get off the ball, relocate somewhere else. And when the threes aren't falling, it feels like it's not quite getting you anywhere. But I think we saw the way that he can just pull apart a defense with the spacing he provides and create room for others to go and attack and drive and operate from the middle. I think it's, again, it speaks to the value Quickley has, the way in which his shooting ability and spacing and gravity are still so important to this team. And I don't think you can just replace him with some perceived more talented guard who doesn't do that shooting stuff and expect the results to be better. I just don't see it at all. Not to beat the I don't want Ja Morant horse a little bit more, but I will keep on beating it because I don't want Ja Morant. I just think, the Quickley-Scottie stuff, going back to that a little bit too, like the way they work in concert, they're sort of dueling forces of gravity. Scottie Barnes, the interior gravity, right? He draws so much help. The Warriors were just like horrified of him last night. He continues to look like a full-on kaiju playing against this Warriors team that just doesn't have a lot of size. And they guarded him as such, right? They were sending 2-3 to the ball. It's why Scottie had 11 assists in this game to go along with his 26 points. Like, they sent help and he was just picking out the right passes, the sort of the pinging he does in close to, guys on the baseline, cutters, big to big stuff. He's just so damn good flipping the play. But then you have Quickley with this sort of gravity on the perimeter. And when you kind of put those two things together, it just creates all kinds of ways in which you can pull apart the defense at the seams, because there are so many decisions that team has to make with these two guys and those skill sets, which when optimized really play well off of one another. And it's not been a thing they've done enough over their time together, but hopefully this can be the start of something more, and if Scottie's going to have to play center for a little bit here with Colin Murray-Boyles out, we'll see for how long. And obviously we know Jakob Poeltl's not around. Like I've been sort of yearning for more Quickley-Scottie two-man game this year, more Quickley-Scottie pick and roll. And I think last night they were just dynamite. Awesome. Like lights out good. Yeah. Just, again, Quickley's not going to go 7-8 from deep every game. He's not going to put up 40 on 11 of 13 shooting every game. But if he can find the middle between this and kind of what he's been over the last month, it's a damn helpful player, a guy who is going to continue to help the team win the minutes he's on the floor, which he's done all season long, even with the struggles, even with the three-point shot not being there. His shooting is just a skill no one else on this team can replicate. It's why I continue to think the idea of starting Jamal Shed over him is just some real backup quarterback is better than the starting quarterback stuff. Like, no, he's not. Like the gravity of Immanuel Quickley, even in a diminished state, even when he's not playing super well, it just opens up things for this team that, Jamal Shed cannot, even if Jamal Shed's very good. And he was very excellent last night too. Like, it's nice to have two guards playing those two guys together, by the way. No coincidence that Immanuel Quickley looked as good as he did starting next to Jamal Shed. Like, that lineup configuration clearly works. It optimizes Quickley without totally taking him off the ball, and lets him do the off-ball jitterbug thing. And, this is why I think if you can get another guard where you can just kind of play more of those two-guard lineups, I think that's a great call. I think you should try to go do that if you can. It might not be possible. There might not be guys you can go and acquire who fit the financial needs of this team, but if you can go find someone, Scottie Pippen Jr., just find a way, man. Find a way. I think that's just, it behooves the Raptors to just get more guards who can open up those two-guard lineups, because it opens up Quickley to do his thing. And I just think it's the best configuration this team can throw out right now. And maybe that's damning about Quickley's on-ball ability. Sure, like you might say that. But I think, again, last night proved he can kind of do both things, right? The 10 assists he had in this game, a lot of them were very creative and largely created out of paint touches that he himself engineered, whether with quick drives, pick and roll, whatever it was, attacking closeouts. Like, when he gets into the teeth of the defense, he is a good passer. He's a really good kick-out passer in particular. Had one beautiful kick-out to Mamu after he drove baseline, drew a bunch of help to the baseline, and then whipped it up top to Mamu for a three. There's stuff there. He's not the perfect creative guard. He's not probably the long-term lead guard answer if you want to win at a high level for this team. But there's space between that and this guy's terrible, get him off my team at all costs. And I think, again, if he can kind of find the level between last night and the sort of down spell he's been over the last month, the Raptors are cooking and he's going to be just fine. We'll come back on the other side, talk about Brandon Ingram, who I thought really benefited in particular from the way Quickley and Barnes kind of provided the backbone of the offense in this game. And he was able to just kind of be an idealized version of Brandon Ingram. We'll talk about why that is coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, and Fridays already feel different during the basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans new ways to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers will drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Visit the FanDuel app during Happy Hour, and it always brings something new. Boosts, bonuses, surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts. Maybe you got a cold beverage and some pizza or something. You're hanging out with pals, watching the games. You want to throw some money down? Happy Hour can make it all the more exciting to go and do that. And look, the Raptors play this Friday. They're playing the Portland Trail Blazers Friday night. Maybe there's some action in that game you want to get involved with. Just head to the FanDuel app and see what's going on NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Back at it here on your, what the hell day is it again? It's Wednesday. Man, these late nights really messing me up. Episode of the podcast, talking about the win over the Warriors. Before we do that, a reminder, you can check out the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club, which is available for you to sign up right now. Link in the description of the podcast. Jump on in there, $5 a month or $50 for the year. You get a little discount if you go for the full year. Gets you ad-free episodes of the show every single day without having to change apps. You just get a little feed, you drop it into your podcast app, and boom, those ad-free shows appear for you. It's great. It's seamless. It's easy. And also you get added to a Locked On Discord, which is different from the Locked On Raptors Discord. That's staying free. But the Locked On Discord is a Discord for Locked On listeners from across the globe to come and talk about their favorite sports. The basketball chat in there is pretty fun right now, picking up some heat. And I think the Olympics are going to be a great time for some playful cross-border ribbing, especially as the hockey games start up on the men's and women's side. So come and check it out. We'd love to see you become part of the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club. It supports me big time. If you've listened to the show for a long time and appreciate it, this is a great way to give back a little bit. And I appreciate so much. Thank you so, so dearly. You are the best. All right. Let's continue on with breaking down the game from last night against the Warriors. And I think Brandon Ingram, to me, maybe not like the loudest Brandon Ingram game by any means, but I do think this game showed off sort of the idealized, perfect version of Brandon Ingram playing within the context of this team. And again, it's been harder for him to do that with Immanuel Quickley not playing up to the level that he's capable of, even if, again, he's got limitations. What he's done so far this year is below what those limitations even are. And so you've just not gotten that sort of level of guard play that I think is necessary to get this perfect version of Ingram. But last night, you very much did. And with the Quickley and Scottie pick and roll two-man game kind of serving as the basis of most of the Raptors' best offense last night, Ingram was just kind of freed up to do the thing off the ball that he's done so well all year long, whether it's coming around on the second side, on the catch, coming off a screen, whether it's just being very eager and happy to let catch and shoot threes go. And I think for me, this was maybe his most impressive game and one of the most indicative games when it comes to the power of his ability to attack a closeout. Ingram, like, then the numbers bear this out too in synergy. Like, his regular drives, just kind of trying to make something from nothing, not terribly effective. He doesn't often get to the rim. They often stop short in the mid range, and that's fine. Where he really does damage on drives is when he's drawing a hard closeout. He's really great at he kind of has that sort of slower windup on his three. It doesn't matter because it's unblockable because the release point's so high, but because he has that slower windup, it gives, I think, a little window for him to kind of dupe guys, right? And so guys will kind of fly at him, and he can kind of load up the three and realize, oh, no, wait, I'm just going to put it on the deck and go and score on somebody. And I just think he's been so devastating when he draws those closeouts, and you just get to weaponize that more when you have other guys creating on the ball. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about yesterday with Vivek. We were digging into the crunch time stuff and why I think it's, fair to maybe suggest that, or this was Monday, I guess, fair to suggest that the Raptors should shift their crunch time offense a little bit more towards Scottie Barnes as the creation hub, just because it weaponizes Ingram off the ball, where he's been really damn good. And again, whether it's catch and shoot, whether it's moving off of a screen and catching around the nail and doing his thing, or just attacking a closeout, like, there are so many possibilities for off-ball Brandon Ingram to go and cause havoc for an opposing defense. He hit the one beautiful drive and dump off to Scottie Barnes last night that was off a closeout. He swings to him on the wing, defense closes out, he walks by the dude, and then, drives and dumps off to Scottie for a bucket. He had another one, the possession where he almost murdered Quinton Post with a two-hand dunk in sort of close quarters. That all started with him drawing a closeout and, busting by that, getting into the teeth of the defense, swinging up for a Mamu three. And Mamu, it wasn't a three. Mamu also attacked a closeout, drove, and it ended up with Ingram getting the ball in a broken play and nearly bringing down the house over Quinton Post. But the point is, just like, if you can find ways to have Ingram work off of closeouts, it's just so much more effective than his standard, like, kind of probing, meandering possessions. And look, you get your healthy portion of those in any game, right? Last night had them too. And sometimes you need them, right? Like, I think it's a good little thing the Raptors have as an added element to their offense, that they can play a high-octane, fast-break heavy game like they did last night, a pick-and-roll heavy game with Quickley and Barnes working off of one another, but also you can kind of toss it to Ingram every handful of possessions, and he can just kind of go to work and slow things down. Like, I think it's nice to have that change of pace, those different looks you can toss out possession by possession to keep defenses guessing. But I think you want to limit how many of those possessions there are, right? And I think we saw again last night in crunch time. It wasn't really crunch time. The Warriors were just kind of riding an insane Buddy Hield heater and making it sort of interesting. Their best offense in those situations was, again, Quickley Barnes two-man game with Ingram working off the ball. He had a couple big threes down the stretch. And I think the possessions that they had where things were getting a little bit hairy, where it was the whole, let's work for an Ingram post touch and just have it chew seconds off the clock while we try to get it in perfect position. Those were the possessions that just didn't quite work. And so, again, I think you're seeing ways in which the Raptors can diversify, not just over the course of the whole game, but in their crunch time situations where they've had trouble. Like, I think this game offered some light into how they can go and approach that too. And again, like, Ingram just in this game, no fat, 22 points, 5 assists, 1 turnover. The doubles he did see, which you didn't see a ton of, was more Scottie who saw extra attention tonight, but the doubles he did see, I thought he didn't force things really. He had a couple shots that he kind of put up over double teams. That's par for the course with Ingram. But otherwise, there were not really any forced ugly looks or really bad turnovers at a double teams. Just like a tidy, efficient game from Brandon Ingram. And if he's going to take 6 threes a game, I don't care if he's going to hit 2 or 4. Like, that's the right number for Brandon Ingram to be taking. And he's been eager and happy to take them. It's been a huge deal. And yeah, like, shot ready. And he's doing the thing on defense as well, as stealing a block in this one too. Really tight in rotation. Like, I thought the Raptors in this game, they got they gave up a little bit near the end as the Warriors got crazy hot, but there were like a lot of really tidy defensive possessions in this game. And when you're not a huge team, you're leaning on Brandon Ingram as that sort of help rim protector guy a little bit more often. And he was doing it just perfectly capably. It was, again, a really tidy, exactly what you want game from Brandon Ingram. Like, I love Ingram. I don't need to see him being like the lead creative force every single time down the floor. I think that is where you get into trouble. I think that's where you kind of see the warts in his game come through. But if he's able to kind of pick his spots, selectively, and just be an agent for off-ball, damage when he's away from the play, I think you're just really getting the most out of that guy. And again, 22 points on 8 of 17, 4 or 6 from downtown, 4 boards, 5 assists, a plus 12, just like a really clean Ingram game. And I hope you can kind of replicate that a little bit more going forward. And, ideally when you get RJ Barrett back, that only helps him, with, sort of cleaning up and sort of trimming the fat from his game as well. Speaking of that, RJ Barrett might be back tonight. That's going to headline the good, the bad, and the coming up in just 1 second as we round out the show here on a Wednesday. Today's show is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our businesses and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that's why today's show is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with your customers. It's a big deal. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets missed. And if you're a small business owner, you can actually take vacation because you're not going to miss everything while you're away. Your team is able to get everything that you might have seen in a previous world. You might have had to go through yourself in order to make sure every customer contact was properly handled. But no, Quo has changed that game for you. Vacation, what a lovely thing. It's no surprise Quo is the number 1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's quo.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Wrapping things up here with the good, the bad, and the It's the way you wrap up every single episode of this here podcast on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. A thing I liked, a thing I didn't like, a thing that's got me a little bit intrigued from the latest in Toronto Raptors hoops. We'll start with the good. RJ Barrett plans to play tonight. This was shared out before the game last night. That's great news. Very exciting. And yeah, I mean, it's been tough having Barrett mostly out of the lineup over the last month and a half. That little stretch where he came back was a delight. And, the offense didn't have trouble last night against the Warriors defense, which, by the way, is a top 10 defense that the Raptors just completely eviscerated. I know they were licking their wounds after losing Jimmy Butler, and he's a big part of their defense, and they were on back-to-back and all this stuff. But still, that's no slouch defensive team that you just carved up to the tune of 140 points per 100 possessions. But Barrett coming back, we know, just kind of gives so much more balance and stability to the Raptors offense. It gives Ingram, I think, really benefits from having Barrett as a second side guy when you do have those possessions where Ingram is kind of, doing his probing thing, his back down stuff, his post up work, which, the post ups for Ingram, I think, have been mostly fine. It's kind of when he's driving into those situations that's a little less effective, but I digress. Having Barrett back's a big deal, right? His 3-point volume, he's not the greatest shooter in the world, but he's a pretty voluminous shooter and he's eager to take them. That's a big deal for a team that needs more volume. And it's just, we know it's a more copacetic offensive environment with Barrett's on the floor. And if Colin Murray-Boyles can get back tonight too, we'll see. He was questionable yesterday before getting ruled out. Doesn't seem like a long-term thing with his thumb. Maybe he's out tonight, back over the weekend. We'll see. But, if you get Colin Murray-Boyles back too, you're cooking on the second night of a back-to-back against the Kangs, baby. And by the way, the Kings are also on a back-to-back. The bad in this game, Ochai Agbaji, man. This was a very bad Ochai Agbaji game. And he's had some moments against the Warriors in the past as like one of their sort of ace defenders on Steph Curry. And, he had some moments like that again last night too. But overall, just like a really, really disjointed, disappointing, and frankly, lifeless game from Ochai. It's tough, right? Like, I can't imagine he's not blind to the situation, right? Like, everyone knows that the Raptors need to duck the tax and that he's the most likely casualty of that. But he's not really doing himself any favors if he's trying to curry favor with the front office and find a way to kind of play himself back into the plans and maybe make the Raptors look elsewhere for their money-saving moves. Like, he's not doing that. And the time is running out, right? We're 2 weeks and a day away from the trade deadline. And I just don't know if it's going to come back. Like, going from 40% from deep last year to just 20% this year on like basically the same diet of looks. Hard to fathom, impossible to explain. And it's just a tough break for a guy in a contract year, man. I feel for him. Obviously, he's going through it. And the turnovers he had last night in particular were kind of the big thing for me. Like, you can miss some threes if you're going to defend well, whatever. I don't really care. It'd be nice if he hit more threes. He's at 20% this season, but I think the process has been fine 3-point wise, but the turnovers in this one, when you're this low usage of player, he can't afford to have 3 turnovers, all of which are very, very unforced, right? He had one where he was just kind of like driving and just kind of got it swatted away, kind of an unforced turnover, like just a little stronger on the ball, and he's fine. Goes off his hand and out. I'm not even sure if it got swatted because it was an out of bounds call on the Raptors, so it might have just lost it. Little butterfingers. And then he had a pass. It might be the most lazy corner to wing pass I've ever seen. Just like, okay, I'm just gonna very softly loft this to Brandon Ingram, he's already having like ball denial being done to him. And I think it was Guy Santos just was like, oh, okay, I'll take this and run. And then he had an entry pass to Brandon Ingram that he just airmailed and sent right out of bounds. Like, pretty tough stuff, man. It sucks. Like, root for Ochai big time. He's a very good dude. And, he was really good for a team last year that badly needed good development stories, and he was one of them. And to have it all kind of fall back to earth and then back through the crust into the mantle has been very disappointing. But yeah, it seems like time is running out for Ochai Agbaji to kind of change the opinion on who should be the guy who's going to get moved on from as the Raptors look to duck to the tax. And the is, can we say that if the Raptors win tonight against the Kings, which I think is eminently possible because the Kings are terrible, I think they might clinch a successful road trip, right? You go into this 5-game Western swing with as many injuries as you had, with the Lakers being on the schedule and Thunder being on the schedule and the Warriors, who had been playing well. Obviously, the Jimmy Butler thing kind of changes the dynamics for them, but like, looking at the schedule, it was like, oh, this could be kind of a tough road trip without all your dudes. And then Colin Murray-Boyles gets hurt in the first game of the road trip, and it's like, oh dear, this is going to be hell. If you win last night comfortably, and if you can beat the stupid Kings tonight, that's a 2-3 Western swing, which at this point I think you would totally take all day as a successful road trip. And then you look around the Eastern Conference, and they're certainly getting help, treading water, hanging on to this 4 seed. I mean, potentially climbing into the 3rd seed if they can win tonight, with the Knicks falling pretty disastrously at the moment. The Sixers lose last night. The Knicks can't stop losing. The Cavs and Magic just can't seem to get right for more than a handful of games. Like, we might be looking at maybe the Raptors weathering this stretch with poor health and getting some good luck along the way. Certainly that's part of all of it, but you have Scottie Barnes, Ingram playing this well. Maybe Quickley can kind of turn this game. He's a rhythm guy. He's a streaky guy. Maybe he turns this game into a bit of a turnaround of his play on the season. RJ comes back. Maybe Colin Murray-Boyles comes back tonight too, or before the end of the trip. And all of a sudden, yeah, you're still down Purtle, you're still down Walter, but for the most part, you've kind of weathered this horrible stretch of injuries without really doing too much damage to yourself in the standings. Still got to win tonight. Don't want to lose to the Kings, obviously, but I would say I would pretty heavily favor the Raptors to win tonight, even if there's no Colin Murray-Boyles, just because of the health situation, or just because of the back-to-back situation for both teams. But and it's not really a travel back-to-back for the Raptors either. Golden State to Sacramento. I think they're riding a bus. And so, yeah, man, encouraged to say the least so far. Last night was kind of like a sneaky huge win as the Raptors look to keep up their pace with the rest of the Eastern Conference and hang in one of those home court spots. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, as always, for rocking with the show, following, subscribing, rating, reviewing, telling a friend. Always appreciate it. Of course, check out the Locked On Raptors postcast with Zelfie Shake and Dwayne Notice after every single game. They went live last night. They're going way into the wee hours of the morning like sickos, and they'll be doing it again tonight after Raptors Kings. You can join the Locked On Raptors Discord, link in the description of the podcast. You can sign on up for the Locked On Raptors Every Day Club as well. Link down there, $5 a month, $50 for the year, gets you ad-free episodes and a whole bunch of other fun perks. And we'll leave it there. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, digging into Raptors Kings. Thanks so much for hanging. Bye-bye. Oh.